he was very bad in choice of the commanders of armies. For almost the whole war, the American Civil War, of course, he was backing up he was standing behind such mediocre military figures like General McClellan, for instance, and in the same time he was totally neglecting interesting commanders like Grant and Sherman, who were fighting in the far less important and far less vast military war theater in the western part of the contemporary United States. So when Grant and Sherman were fighting in Louisiana, like a couple of thousands against a couple of thousands, the really huge battles were going on in Pennsylvania and in Virginia, with the very inept McClellan on the side of the Union and the fantastic Robert E. Lee on the side of the Confederacy. So he was not a brilliant politician, he was not a good tactician, he was not good in whipping votes for his case. He was very good at being a prophet with his views, and he was much more an ideologue than a politician. So I would argue that Abraham Lincoln is by no means a very able American president. He had much more luck than reason, and I think that part of thinking about him as a very important and very ingenious historical figure is that he was shot just after the war. So he was after the main portion of fighting, to be sure. So he was shot, so he became like a martyr of his case. But martyrs are rarely very... martyrs can be important, but they are not... they shouldn't be placed an example, because it's not as General Patton said once, that it's not important, it's not the big deal to die for your country, right? So it's to making the enemies die for their countries, right? So I would say that Lincoln is treated more like a religious person, like a religious symbol in America, both for the progressives and for the traditionals. Because if you are not some person who think that Confederacy was a good idea, and it's very risky to do so, even because the Confederacy was all about slavery, right? But they definitely had some legal rights to secede if they wanted. So the law was on their side, the morality may be on the side of the Union, but not the law. So we have like a religious symbol more, and of course religion and like all the irrational thing is crying louder than reason, louder than politics, louder than tactics. But it doesn't mean that he died for his cause. He didn't want to die for his cause, but he was shot by the crazy actor in the theater. The actor, of course, who was a sympathizer of the Confederacy. So he was not really, strictly speaking, a martyr, but he can be portrayed as a martyr, and he is portrayed as a martyr. He was bad in his political choices, almost all of them. Almost all of them. He was, in his political campaigns, he was articulate in his speeches, but he was not very able. He was losing more than he was winning. So it's because he became a very important political figure because he has co-created a new political party, and it was a void for because the American Whig Party, in which he started, was totally destroyed. So he created the Republican Party. So he really created his own party. So he was like an